For most of history, capturing a single moment meant spending 30 cents for every click, waiting days for a stranger to hand you a print, and storing memories in heavy albums that faded over time. Today, billions of photos are snapped and shared instantly, from the same device that fits in your pocket. How did a tool built for calls quietly become the world's most popular camera and erase dedicated cameras almost overnight? Within a single generation, everything changed. Every photo used to carry a price tag. Each press of the shutter cost anywhere from 30 to 50 cents, and that was just to capture the moment. Developing the film and making prints added more. For families on a budget, those numbers added up quickly. A roll of film might hold 24 or 36 shots, but you had to think hard before using each one. Birthdays, vacations, graduations, every click was a small investment, and mistakes meant wasted money. Once the roll was finished, the waiting began. Film went into a paper envelope, then across the counter at the drugstore or a dedicated photo lab. Most people expected to wait at least a day or two, sometimes longer if the lab was busy or the photos needed special processing. There was no instant feedback, no way to know if the shot was out of focus or if someone had blinked. The anticipation of picking up a fresh packet of prints was part of the ritual, but so was the letdown when half the photos turned out poorly. Receipts from those years tell the story. Stacks of small charges, each one tied to a memory you hoped would turn out right. Albums grew heavier with every trip to the lab, filled with images that faded over time. The cost, the waiting, and the uncertainty shaped how people approached photography. Every picture was a choice, and every memory came with a price. A camera wasn't just a gadget, it was something you felt in your hands. Cool metal, the gentle click of the shutter, the satisfying turn of a dial to set the focus or adjust the light. For many, those small rituals were half the joy. You would lift the viewfinder to your eye, steady your breath, and press the button with purpose. Every shot was a promise, an investment of one of those precious spots on a roll. 24, maybe 36 if you had splurged. Albums became time machines. Thick pages held prints with scalloped edges, some faded to sepia, others still bright from last summer. You could trace your childhood in those pages, feel the weight of the memories in your lap. There was a kind of magic in flipping through them, the scent of old paper and glue, the fingerprints smudging the corners. Photos weren't just images, they were objects passed from hand to hand, each one sparking stories and laughter around the table. The camera itself felt like a companion. It lived in a drawer or on a shelf, waiting for the next birthday or road trip, a familiar shape you reached for when something mattered. The tactile connection, loading film, winding the lever, the mechanical whir, made every step feel deliberate, every memory earned. Long before pixels, photography lived in the senses. In the summer of 1997, Felipe Khan sat in a hospital room, waiting for his daughter to be born. He wanted to share the first photo instantly with friends and family, but there was no easy way, so he improvised. Using a digital camera, a Motorola StarTAC phone, and a laptop, Khan cobbled together a system that snapped a picture and sent it out over the internet. 320 by 240 pixels, grainy and small, but delivered in real time. It was part hack, part magic trick. The idea of sending a photo from anywhere instantly sounded like science fiction. For most people, it was hard to see the point. Who needed to share a blurry image right away when a proper print could wait a few days? 3 years later, in Japan, the Sharp JSH04 arrived. It looked like an ordinary flip phone, but hidden inside was a tiny 0.11 megapixel CCD sensor, hardly more powerful than Khan's DIY setup. The photos it took were rough, colors washed out, details lost in the noise. Every shot a compromise. Yet for the first time, you could snap a picture and send it wirelessly to another phone. The device launched in November 2000 and cost about as much as a decent compact camera, but the images were nowhere near as sharp. Still, something had changed. The phone wasn't just for calls anymore. Now, it could capture and share moments on the fly, even if the results looked more like abstract art than family portraits. Early adopters in Japan played with the new feature, sending pixelated faces and city lights across the network. The world was not ready to give up its film cameras, not yet. But the seed had been planted. Sharing was possible, even if nobody quite knew what to do with it. The first camera phones promised a new kind of freedom, but in reality they could not compete with the cameras people already trusted. The problem started deep inside the device, with the image sensor. Early phones like the Sharp JSH04 used CCD sensors, the same basic technology found in digital cameras of the time. CCD sensors could produce decent images, but they were expensive to manufacture and drained battery life fast. Two major strikes for anything meant to fit in a pocket and stay powered all day. For phone makers, every extra dollar or millimeter mattered. CMOS sensors were the alternative. On paper, they were cheaper to produce and used less power, opening the door for mass production. But there was a catch. Early CMOS sensors were noisy and unreliable, producing images full of static and blur. Engineers spent years battling these flaws, trying to coax better performance out of tiny chips. In the late 1990s, Kodak quietly filed patents for digital cameras that could send images wirelessly. Essentially the smartphone camera before anyone called it that. But Kodak's leadership, worried about protecting their film business, decided not to pursue the idea. The company had the future in its hands and let it slip away. As CMOS technology improved, manufacturing costs plummeted. Suddenly, it became possible to put a camera on every phone without breaking the bank. Power consumption dropped too, which meant longer battery life and smaller devices. The shift from CCD to CMOS did not just make camera phones possible, it made them affordable, practical, and ready for the mass market. The stage was set, but image quality still lagged behind dedicated cameras. For now, phone photos were a novelty, not a replacement. That was about to change. Everything changed in 2007. The first iPhone landed with a 2-megapixel camera tucked inside, a simple lens, no flash, and barely a thought given to photography. But it was always there, just a swipe away, ready for anything. Suddenly, the camera was not something you packed for a birthday or a vacation. It was part of your daily life, built into the device already glued to your hand. Adoption took off fast. In the US, smartphone ownership jumped from barely 35% in 2011 to over 80% by the end of the decade. It was not just about hardware. In October 2010, Instagram appeared on the App Store. The app made sharing photos as easy as taking them. Snap, filter, post, and watch the likes roll in. Within 2 months, 1 million people had joined. By 2015, Instagram had 100 million users, and phone cameras were powering a new kind of social life. If you enjoy discovering how technology keeps reshaping our world, consider subscribing so you do not miss the next evolution story. The camera had crossed the threshold. What started as a novelty became a necessity, an always-ready window to capture and share every part of life. By the middle of the 2010s, the technical gap between phone cameras and dedicated compacts had all but disappeared. Sony's sensor division quietly became the engine behind this leap. Their backside illuminated CMOS sensors, first mass-produced in 2011, delivered sharper images and better low-light performance, not just for flagship phones, but for nearly every major brand. Suddenly, a device in your pocket could match, and sometimes outdo, the point-and-shoots that once filled camera shop shelves. The numbers tell the story. In 2010, global shipments of compact cameras peaked at 120 million. Within a decade, that figure collapsed to just 8 million. The Camera and Imaging Products Association, once the heartbeat of the industry, watched as factories shuttered and entire product lines vanished. It was not just about specs. For millions, the phone became the only camera they would ever need. A new generation of creators emerged, building careers and portfolios with nothing but a phone. In 2009, a single eyewitness photo, snapped on an iPhone as US Airways Flight 1549 floated on the Hudson, spread around the world in minutes. Citizen journalism, viral images, and mobile-first storytelling all took root in the era when phones became good enough for anything. The camera industry did not just shrink, it was rewritten pixel by pixel by the phones in our hands. Billions of us now carry a camera that shapes how we see and how we're seen. As AI and wearable tech edge closer, the way we capture reality could change again. Overnight. Stay curious, subscribe for more evolution stories, and remember, no technology stays on top forever.